Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today I'd like to get a little bit of feedback from you on some questions that have been going through my mind. I really have been getting into the orchid growing and orchid breeding, and this past week I had meetings and have had some correspondence with some really well-known and good orchid breeders. And I'm starting to get into it a little bit more. I'm starting to learn a little bit more, and what I have found out is that, similar to what I found out early on or throughout my career, is that the more that I learn, the more that I know, I'm figuring out the less that I know. And so I'm learning a lot, but I'm also getting pretty confused. And the main issue that I need help with is the direction that I go, really related to orchid breeding. So, there's a lot going on. I'm making a lot of crosses. It takes a while to figure out if your crosses are, number one, successful, and then what the progeny plants are actually going to look like, what kind of flowers you want, what kind of plants you want, and things like that. The other thing is I'm getting more into the orchid breeding and growing. I've become a little bit more involved with the American Orchid Society, or AOS. And in that regard, I've been getting more involved. Means I'm my local society's representative to the American Orchid Society, but I'm also on some AOS committees that I think you can have an influence on which direction we go for the future. A lot of the AOS, American Orchid Society, is really focused on native orchids in orchid conservation, and that's a direction that they chose to take, and that's fine. The thing is with orchids is that there are so many native orchids that are out there. And most of the native orchids have little tiny flowers that aren't very showy and that really aren't of a great interest to me. But there's incredible diversity there, and there's a lot of interest in preserving all of the different orchid species and orchid flowers, which has to be of interest. But in addition to that, I'm trying to kind of ask myself, where do most people find their interests are in orchids? And I think that interest is in the orchids that you buy in the store and buy from growers, and the big, beautiful, fragrant, colorful orchids that I've really come to enjoy. So my question here is this a suitable direction? Should I be more interested in the natives, in the endangered orchids? And I work with those. I just don't like them that much as far as the plants and the flowers go. Or should I direct, or see what kind of redirection that other orchid groups should take to the orchids that most people are familiar with, and those are the more showy orchids. So again, I'd like your feedback on what direction you think the American Orchid Society, or if I can influence the American Orchid Society, what direction should this group go for the future of orchids? One of the ideas that I came up with, and I do come up with a lot of ideas are cheap. Implementing those, or actually taking them through, are a bit more challenging. But the idea that I came up with is to try to establish maybe an orchid breeding fellowship or scholarship or award of some kind to get more young breeders involved, young people involved in orchid breeding. The orchid breeders that I interacted with over the past week or two, they're very good. They're just really, really good, and there's an incredible amount of knowledge there. The problem there is that most of the breeders that I know have become good because they've been doing it for so long, which means that they're my age or maybe even older. And so I'm thinking that what would help, what would benefit the orchid community is to get more young people involved in orchid breeding. So is this something that do you think would be of interest? And this can take the form of either, undergraduate scholarship, a scholarship for graduate school, training, internships with some of the more established orchid breeding programs. It could take a number of different forms, and this is something that I need your help on, if you think that this is useful. Even the different, it could be something where we could look at a training program for a orchid hobbyist breeder or something along those lines. And again, the idea behind this concept is that breeding orchids is really challenging, and it's going to generate some really new and exciting lines that are out there that would then hopefully be made available to the broader orchid community. If you feel that native orchids, that more emphasis on conservation, endangered orchids, if that's of interest to you, let me know about that in the comments. If you think that something that I haven't thought of is worth pursuing, I'd love to hear about that as well. So again, this is an opportunity where I think I'm learning a little bit more about orchids and orchid breeding, but I'm also confused about I'm a little bit conflicted about which direction that the orchid community should be going. So just let me know what you think. All right, that's all I have for today. It's a short video. If you liked what you saw today and you want to keep on seeing them, it would help me out if you can click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. Okay, that's all I have for today. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.